What's going on, YouTube? Uh, Taking you for a quick trip. I'm driving at the moment. The car's not. I'll engage it in just a little bit, but I wanted to set the stage before I kick it on. So there's a road here in the St. Peters, Missouri area that can be a little tricky for FSD. It's not that there's anything super special about the road, and this issue is very unique to 12.4.3. So we're going to go test this road again with the intention of seeing um, whether or not I can recreate the same issue that I had before. And so what you're going to be looking for, hopefully paying attention to the steering wheel and the driving, is you're going to be looking for situations where the car makes like a sudden jerking motion, like it's trying to either turn right or it's it's basically something that I've noticed about 12.4.3 where I feel like the system is becoming hyper aware of potential obstacles in the road, which is a great thing, right? Like we need it to be fully aware. Hopefully it avoids potholes, things of that nature. Um, but so we're engaged now. FSD is taking over, but you also have to kind of be aware of that. Like avoiding potholes doesn't need to be a super aggressive maneuver. And there aren't any real potholes here, even though the roads aren't fantastic. It's concrete roads and such. So this is the road I'm talking about. This is called Willet, and Willet uh, just has some. I don't know if it's the lines on the concrete or what triggers the potential issue. So we're going to see if it gets recreated here. I'm sure the car behind me is probably loving this because speed limit's 35, and for whatever reason the car's hanging out around 30. So first couple of times I noticed it, there's a fire station right up here, and that was somewhere right around there was the first time it triggered and it did that herky jerky maneuver. So I'm going to have my hand on the wheel just in case it does anything super crazy, but let's test it, see how it goes. Hopefully it was just a fluke, but we'll see. So here's a fire station. So far so good. Uh, like So there you see the herky jerkiness that I'm talking about, where it's like instead of a nice smooth turn, it's kind of doing this uh, zigzaggy motion. So then you come around this turn, we got a stoplight, handled that fairly well. Um, Trying to remember, I think at the top, so there's another stoplight. We're going to go down a hill and up a hill, and I want to say on the other side of that stoplight, similar type of reaction. Um, So we'll check it out and we'll see. I'm not sure what's causing it to do that, but it's just very odd that it's picking up on something that's causing it to do this zigzagging motion. So hopefully you guys caught that. You can rewind it. You can see. First time it did it, freaked me the heck out, right? Because it was like such a sudden and abrupt turn. Uh, that was actually maybe I've just gotten used to it, but the first time it was just so abrupt that I thought it was going to steer me into the sidewalk or something. So um, I disengaged it. Second time around, I kept my hand on there and I kind of let it do it. And now this is my third time kind of making this trip, and we're just going to see. But again, just odd behaviors, and I'm my gut reaction is it's either something to do with shadows and lighting, or it's just kind of a road awareness thing that may or may not be uh, appropriate. So all right. So I don't remember the exact spot, but I'm pretty sure it was after we get across here. And the last couple of times I didn't have cars in front, so I'm not sure if that influences like this car's behavior, but we'll see. Turn down the news so that hopefully that's not coming through and bugging you guys. So far actually that managed that good. I didn't see anything crazy happen there. speed limit could be a little bit faster for my comfort, but again, uh, I always try and take that perspective of the robo taxi, and 35 is the speed limit. We're hanging out around 35, so I'm not going to knock it. You know, um, I do think at some point, maybe if that's true, right, like the ability to put something in the settings where you can say, okay, I like to do at least 5 over, and I believe there is a setting where you can adjust that. Um, right now, I have the setting set up so that it's just like the car can decide what speed it's going to go. So far, again, good. Can't complain. So hopefully you picked up on it back there at the beginning. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let the car. I think this hill is an interesting situation. So this I like, right? Like the immediately get over. Um, if you don't do that, you have cars behind you. They'll kind of zoom around on the right hand side, especially if it's just hanging out doing the speed limit. But this is an interesting turn up here. So I also wanted to be able to capture this because, one, this is a very steep hill. So your vision, because it's also kind of as part of a turn, so your vision can be a little limited. You kind of have to sneak up and pop up. We had the green to go, so that worked out. Car took the turn. Now we're going to get over, and I have it going to this shopping area over here. So it's actually bypassing the first entrance into the shopping area and getting over into the center lane, waiting. Okay. So far, so good. Got my foot over the brake just in case it decides to be a little too aggressive for my taste, but we'll see. It's one of those things that sometimes the car is so hesitant to go that it's just like, if it's going to go, it needs to go type of thing, or it needs to chill. So, did good. I'm going to let it go around to see if when we get to the destination that I put in, uh, if it's going to kind of give me like a parking option or what it might do. And then what we'll do is we'll start a drive back going down the same road in the other direction. This time we'll be facing the sun. Okay, so did put on a blinker. Are you going to do anything? No. Just curious to see what it would do. I, I may have to be able to disengage it to do like the auto park feature, but I was actually curious whether like it would even give me the option at some point. All right, it did not. So we'll end it there. And now if I do that, I've got people right here, so we'll see what it does. All right. Did a decent job avoiding the people. Not so much getting into the line itself, but we'll see. Right. Pretty good. And it put itself in park, so we're good there. So now I'm going to have it calculate the route home. We're going to go. We're going to go back this road. This time we're going to be facing into the sun, and we're going to test to see whether or not the sun is the predominant issue. So let's take a look. So I actually might engage it right here just because I think how the car handles this turn could be interesting too. So we'll engage it here. We'll let it choose the lane. If it chooses, all right, I want to see if it stays in this lane. If it okay, so this will be a nice little test because I think I've told you guys before in another video that it has trouble merging. This lane will end, so when we make the turn, the car is going to have to decide to get over one. Um, I don't recall if there's actually a sign that says lane ends or if it's just going to be markings in the street. Because I think what you end up seeing is that it'll just be markings in the street saying that it becomes a right turn only or that you have to turn right in the lane. So I'm going to let it do as much as I can and see if it makes the move over without me having to interact with it. Um, because in the past, I've had to initiate the move over or I've had to intervene to get it to move over because it stayed in that right hand turn lane instead of like acting like it wanted to go straight instead of realizing that the lane was going to end. And I say that it was going at speed. So um, prior versions of FSD on this road would go a lot faster than this version. All right, so far so good. It's staying to the right side. This is where it gets interesting because we have traffic to the left of us. So it's speeding up to about 38. And as you notice, all right, so it registered the lane ending and it did get us over. Okay. That's an improvement. So, gold stars, right? So I am again letting it do its thing. Keep my hand near the wheel just because of, like I said, how it's freaked out in the past. I may have to do this trip again, maybe because the sun is going down. So if it is a sunlight thing, um, it may be a time of day issue more so than a road awareness issue. But we'll find out. I'm really curious to see how it does coming back through this way. So otherwise, in the comments, I'd love to hear what you guys think in terms of, you hear my opinion, but things that I'd love to hear is like, so right now we're doing 37 and a 35. To me, for a robo-taxi experience, that's probably perfect. And honestly, even not from a robo-taxi experience, if I'm letting the car drive like I am right now and I'm just kind of hanging out, I really don't want the car speeding. I might speed personally when I'm driving, but if the car's driving itself, I would be more comfortable letting the car do it if it's doing it in a way that's kind of within the law, right? Like if it was doing 45, that would start making me uncomfortable, just from the standpoint that that's 10 miles an hour over the speed limit. So far, uh, the only issue I've had this drive is that little wonkiness with the way the steering wheel reacted and just kind of the zigzagging. But it wasn't like crazy, right? It was actually worse, I think, one of the first times. But uh, right now, that last time, I can live with it. I don't know why it's doing it, but I could live with it. From a robo-taxi perspective, if you're sitting in the back seat of this car and nobody's driving, and you see the steering wheel kind of shift left, right like that, that'd probably be a little unsettling. You know, not the end of the world, but unsettling. So far so good. Hanging out around the 35 mile an hour mark. See, so you got the cop hanging out here. So I'd much rather be doing 35 miles an hour than 40 or anything close to that. Of course, now I got the cop right behind me, so hopefully it doesn't do anything really stupid. All right. So far, so good. Wouldn't that be fun if I got pulled over while doing full self-driving videos? Entertainment for YouTube, right? That was nice. That's actually probably the smoothest. Like I said, I've done this drive 3 other times, and this is the smoothest so far. It was a lot more uh, shifty and a little bit more hesitant, and was reacting to something earlier. So I'll have to do this drive again and do it at a time of day when the lighting is different to see if it might be a lighting issue. So yeah. Little hesitation to get over there, but it did get over, and it's choosing to be in the right lane. So here's what I'm going to tell you. I'm going to go ahead and keep the video rolling. I'll continue to talk, but the main section that I was hoping to share with you guys was actually just this kind of back and forth that we did. Um, there was a commenter that said something about he had never seen the car try and pull into a driveway before, and so he kind of wanted to see that happen. So for that person's sake, I'm going to keep the camera rolling. I'll keep talking. If if you guys are interested in that, just kind of hang on for another, I don't know, 8 minutes or so, and we'll see if the car pulls in properly to the parking lot. Or it's not going to pull into the parking lot, it's going to pull into my driveway. Um, for those of you who haven't been watching, um, it has about 100 miles to go, and it always tries to pull into my neighbor's driveway. I would say 50 to 60% of the time it goes for my neighbor's driveway, and 50% of the time it'll go for mine. But if my son happens to be parked in the driveway, even though he's parked on the right side of the driveway and there's still space to pull in, the car gets real hesitant and it won't pull in. Um, so we'll see. We'll see how it reacts. My son's car should be there. Uh, Trash goes out tonight, so my wife has probably already put the trash out since I'm playing around. So that'll be another obstacle it'll have to navigate if it does try and pull into the driveway. Um, what else? Beyond that, um, I actually expect the rest of this drive to go really smooth. I've done it enough times that this going back tends to be better than going out. Anybody who's watched my other videos knows that this intersection up here, when I'm driving in the opposite direction, it struggles with staying in a lane. Going in the direction I'm going right now, when I had to make the right hand turn about 3 or 4 stoplights up, it can be iffy because there's some painting, like a white marking on the road, and that white marking, uh, depending on traffic and other things, the car doesn't always want to get over to the right and make the right hand turn, even though a normal human being would go ahead and get over to the right and basically ignore the lane markings. They'd go ahead and make that shift to the right. So we'll see how it does today. But yeah. Any other thoughts on anything else you guys would like to see? Let me know. I'll actually go off and kind of give an opinion of mine. If any of you are kind of in the market for a used Tesla, well, EVs in general, I'm just going to talk EVs in general for a moment. Right now, the pricing on some EVs and the deals that are available on some EVs are just so solid that, like, if you were on the fence and you're in the market for a car, like, I think it's probably one of the best times to be an EV buyer. Um, the used car market for EVs at the moment, um, you can get a car like this one if you qualify to be able to do the EV tax credits for used cars. Your net out of pocket might be like 20, 21 grand for a car like this, um, which is a solid deal. The most important thing I can tell you is you have to buy through a dealership. So I want to say there's a company called Key Savvy that'll help you do like private party transactions and still get the benefit of filing an EV tax credit. You just pay them a flat fee. But if you go through a dealership, key things to remember. One, that dealership has to be registered with the IRS to file the documentation they're required to file for you to get the tax credit. They need to provide you with a copy of the form. So there's actually something that they had to print out. Now, the dealership in the office Come on, you can brake. The dealership in the office. So here's what I'm talking about. A normal person, I'm going to change topics real quick. A normal person would go ahead and scoot over to the right as soon as they can, but the car will wait for that. So if traffic was backed up and not moving, you'd be stuck there, and people get annoyed with you because they're like, why don't you just get over, right? Or they would swing around you if they have the room and you don't. So all right, so back to the EV tax credits. Um, Dealership has to be registered with the IRS. The actual dealership in a lot of cases may not, so the person you're speaking with may not be authorized to submit the things to the IRS. So what'll happen is their back office person will actually do the paperwork and submit it and do the filing. Get it on a WIO. There's something in the car business called a WIO, WE, like we the company, and then OWE, and you have it put in writing that they will file the paperwork with the IRS and they will provide you with a copy of the acceptance of that documentation to the IRS, showing that the IRS accepted the information that they provided for the tax credit. And then at tax time, you can do your filing and you use that document from them to solidify that they did in fact submit it, and that you with your own documentation can get the tax credit back. The alternative is you find a um, dealership that's actually willing to do the filing and do a transfer credit, meaning they're going to take that money off of the car, like the price of the car, right up front. And so you're never going to get the tax credit. They get the tax credit. The only thing I would say in that scenario is make sure you do, in fact, qualify for it. Because what happens is, if, let's say, you made too much money, or there's an issue where the vehicle didn't properly qualify, interesting scenario, somebody sweeping out in the road. So the car is actually being very thoughtful um, about the pedestrian in the road and slowing down, etc. So I actually don't mind that it did that, even though it was a little awkward, and they looked at me like, "What the hell are you doing?" uh, you know, I'd rather the car be very safe around people in the street than just driving on through. But anyway, back to the point. If you do the point of sale transaction where they take the money off the car up front, if it turns out you didn't qualify, or let's say the car did not qualify, because the car can only be owned by one prior person, so it had to be a one owner used vehicle, and or I believe basically nobody else can have had like the used tax credit before, right? On that vehicle. So there's the herky jerky of the intersection. But if you don't qualify in that sense, then what happens at tax time? The IRS isn't going to go back to the dealership to get the $4,000 back. You already got the $4,000 on your car. So the IRS is basically going to say at tax time, you owe them. All right, so here we are. We're in the neighborhood. All right, the car is passing the neighbors. So now let's see if it tries to pull in. Oh, 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 oh. No, no. Yeah, whenever my son's car is parked in the driveway, it does really not. It doesn't like uh, that situation. So I'm just seeing what the car does and how it reacts at this point. Like, will it turn around? What's it going to do? Let's see what it does. I have a good friend and neighbor walking. All right, let's see what it does. I'm letting it do this because I'm curious to see if coming from the other direction, if it'll decide that it wants to try and park or what it's going to do. Like, is it going to park on the side of the road? I think that's what it might do. Yep, that's what it did. So it just decided that it would park on the side of the road. All right. Well, that was enough of that experiment. I'll have to do it again when I know my son's not at home and see if I can get it to do the parking. So, thanks for watching and going for the ride. Y'all have a good one.